We're not actually going to talk about a trade first. We're going to talk about a buyout signing for the Boston Celtics, of course. The Boston Celtics signing Mr. Torrey Craig
Yeah.
this evening while they were down 27 points in the fourth quarter.
No,
It
we were
was
only
we were
down
down
11
by
at
a
this
ton to the Dallas Mavericks.
time.
Okay, okay. I
We were
wasn't
only
sure
down
the
It,
11.
it
actuals.
was
I
in
know we were
the.
down a ton at the time.
I think it was during the first quarter that it
It-
happened, first or second.
Okay, so it was earlier in the game. Earlier in the game, we weren't being trounced yet. It was on. It was on. It was. We were loading. It was loading for the game, but maybe that's why the Celtics they kind of who knew they maybe took their foot off the pedal. Like, oh, we got help coming. We don't want to give out too many things
So,
against the Mavericks
are,
tonight because Torrey Craig is coming on the horizon. But for real, the Boston Celtics they go out and make an acquisition at the trade
yeah.
deadline without actually. Well, they do make a trade in trading away Jaden Springer for a conditional second round pick, top 55 protected. We talked about that earlier on the trade deadline special. But this evening, the Celtics go and acquire Torrey Craig, who was waived by the Chicago Bulls earlier this week, and Torrey Craig will provide a little bit of bench help with the Celtics. He'll provide a little bit of versatility, somebody who can hit the 3-point shot every now and then, can really defend. He's been sort of an NBA journeyman, started his journey out with the Denver Nuggets, of course, and then from there just kind of flopped around the league, went to the Suns, then he was on the Bucks, back with the Suns, and went to the NBA Finals, of course, with those teams. And he's played a role in rotations for other
Chicago.
teams around the league, Chicago as well, coming from Chicago now. And he's played a role for other teams around the league. Now, Torrey Craig, will how big of a role will he play with the Boston Celtics is still very much a question up in the air, and it
Yeah.
probably won't be a substantial one. But this does give the Celtics another piece off the bench to come in and fill minutes for Brown or Tatum when they're on the bench. And of course, Torrey Craig comes into the game, and it just gives the Celtics another body, other than another forward body, I should say, another wing defender other than Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser is not known for his defense whatsoever, but Torrey Craig, he's a better player on that side of the ball than Sam Hauser. And I think it does give the Celtics a little bit more versatility and depth off the bench. We'll see if another move is still on the horizon, still one more roster spot to fill. The Celtics did have to fill this roster spot by a certain deadline, and they do it by
Yeah, the
signing
14th,
Torrey Craig. So, what are your guys' thoughts on the buyout signing by the Boston Celtics?
Well, we figured it'd be a wing, as we talked about earlier in part one of the Celtics Talk Weekly trade deadline special. We had some options out there for sure. We had the Pickens. Celtics had about $12.8 million to play with. The details on Torrey Craig's contract have not been released yet. I'm sure we'll find them out in the coming hours. But Celtics didn't have a crazy amount to work with, but they did have a decent amount to work with, and they had two open roster spots, one of which had to be filled by the 14th of February. So the Celtics wasted no time, added Torrey
Happy
Craig.
Valentine's, folks. 14th of
Yes,
February.
now a nice Seamus's kisses, but oh no,
Not to you guys.
No kisses tonight.
no kisses. You're gonna make Franco blush.
These aren't for the
But
Celtics.
but this is and we mentioned names like Lonnie Walker. We mentioned Torrey Craig, of course. We mentioned obviously Daniel Tice as well, who just recently went on the market with the Oklahoma City Thunder, releasing him today. So there were some notable names that the Celtics could go out and acquire. PJ Tucker as well, and Torrey Craig was one of the names that we talked about. We spent a decent amount talking about earlier this afternoon, and a terrific 3-and-D wing for the Celtics coming in. Torrey Craig, known for his perimeter defense, but also is a just slightly below 40% 3-point shooter. I believe since 2022, he is a spectacular 3-and-D wing type player. Great guy you can have coming off the bench behind Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You have your big man depth, whether you like it or not. You have your big man depth. Luke Cornett, Nemish Queta, Xavier Tillman, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. You can throw in Anton Watson as an undersized big as well. You have plenty of big man depth on this team. It's the wing depth that is slim pickings. You know, Sam Hauser, after Sam Hauser gets very, very thin, obviously trading away Jaden Springer a couple of days ago. So I like this move for Boston. I think it gives them depth. It gives them longevity. You get a spectacular defensive talent. a 40% 3-point shooter to go along with that. That's going to be terrific. We really brought him in for his defense, but if he can hit that 3-point shot, that's gonna help this team a lot. It's gonna space the floor out. It's gonna really pair well, and he's gonna play well alongside guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis. Now, to answer the second part of your question, Seamus, what's the role going to look like for Torrey Craig? Well, I don't know that yet because the Celtics roster is already so deep. We're only in the regular season, and we know that the depth usually slims down to about 7-8 guys come playoff time, and that's a luxury if you don't know where he lands in this roster. I don't know if he immediately jumps into that top 7 to 8 guys. I'm not saying that happens, but at the same time, this is a great time for the Celtics to kind of figure that out. It's sounding like he is probable for Saturday night in New York. He will travel with the team, and he will have his physical in the next couple of days. He will wear the jersey number 12, as that was an open jersey number. So
Grant Williams got to live up to the hype.
There is an opportunity that we do see him at least suit up for the Celtics on Saturday night in their game against the New York Knicks. But as far as the role, listen, guys, we knew no matter what, whether it was throughout the trade deadline, whether it was the buyout market, we knew that this was going to be the 14th and or 15th man on the roster, that this was not going to be a significant needle threading move. That means the Celtics won or lost the NBA title, whether that meant they were going back to back or not. This is not what that is. I will say it's a great addition to this team, and I think it adds tremendous depth and definitely, I guess, increases your chances more than decreases it for sure. And it was also a very solid counterstrike to what the Cleveland Cavaliers did this afternoon, which from a basketball perspective, basketball fan, one of my favorite moves and fits was DeAndre Hunter out to Cleveland. I think Cleveland is missing that wing. I really do. Their wing depth is treacherous. Karis LeVert, who is injury prone and really hasn't lived up to the hype this past year and a half, like he did in his first stint with Cleveland. Niang, who is a constant mismatch and just a hassle player to have on. It's just he wasn't giving you anything. And essentially, in my opinion, he was one of the main factors of why Cleveland never got back into the game against the Celtics a couple of nights ago, because anytime Niang was matched on Tatum cooked him. It was just undoubtedly, and you guys remember Game 6 against Philadelphia a couple of years ago in that fourth quarter, Jason Tatum ate Niang up. And obviously you got Dean Wade coming back from injury. Isaac Okoro is still there. So that gives some really good depth to Cleveland as well. So I think the Celtics, this is great. If it wasn't Lonnie Walker, it was going to be Torrey Craig. And I think Boston did a tremendous job at filling out that 14th roster spot. I'd be very surprised if Brad fills in that 15th spot. He likes to have that flexibility. He likes to have that freedom. He is eligible to convert a two-way guy, whether that's Peterson, Davison, or Watson. So I think Brad likes to live with that breath, with that extra little breath, that little inhale. And solid move for the Celtics. Obviously, the Celtics could have used Craig's defense and shooting tonight, but that wasn't the case. So maybe we'll get to see him in New York. But overall, this is a very, very, very solid signing for the Boston Celtics, Torrey Craig.
It's definitely going to be a key signing moving forward. And one of the biggest concerns for the Boston Celtics, and one of the things that opponents will always match up with and also take advantage of, is the lack of defensive depth at the wing position for the Boston Celtics. Sam Hauser is usually the biggest target on the Celtics defensive end, and usually he has done a good job of matching up with those and has been able to take on some matchups and be able to have a few key plays this season. But Torrey Craig gives you that sense of comfort and a more consistent defender and a much more versatile player. He's someone who's able to get rebounds for you, being able to cut down low. He's an interior scorer with alongside having some good 3-point skills. He's a very well-rounded player and one of the players I was eyeing for the Boston Celtics to bring in during this buyout market. And I think that he slots in just around where Sam Hauser is in the rotation. So I'd say around the 8th or 9th man to come in. I think you might see him as frequently as Hauser, and definitely gives you a more situational rotation. You can, if you need 3-pointers, you can go with it. Hauser. If you need a defensive stop, you can go with Craig. I think he's going to be something that you can really work with, and he really completes this team going forward with the rotation, and I feel confident with what they have going forward.
You're
to
really
to put
looking across. Go ahead, Justin.
no, I sorry, I just got to cut loose here in a couple minutes. Uh, just to go off of the Torrey Craig signing, uh, to put it into perspective, if you want to maybe compare and contrast to recent midseason signings, I mean, this clears the Xavier Tillman signing, trade signing. This clears the Mike Muscala signing. It's clear, depending on how it is, this could clear the Jaden Springer signing as well. We just didn't really see the consistent minutes out of Jaden Springer. You want to go back and maybe even some offseason acquisitions as far as, Lamar Stevens and Delano Banton. Like this is, for how, the Celtics can't really do much in the buyout market in trading. Like they really are restricted with their money right now. And this right now, we need to see it transpire on the court. But just going off of statistics and fit and culture, like this guy right here is in my eyes the best in season acquisition the Celtics have landed in a little bit. This 100%. He doesn't even have to step on the parquet yet, and this clears the Xavier Tillman and Mike Muscala signing.
Well, yeah, looking across the Celtics roster right now, Torrey Craig fills a legitimate need for the Boston Celtics
Absolutely, yeah.
because really you can break basketball down into three positions, right? There's five slots, but really three positions you have. And you have subcategories of all these positions. You have bigs, you have wings, and you have guards. That's pretty much it. And then you can break all those down into subcategories of them their own selves. Well, from the big man category, the Celtics are clearly set. They have Kristaps Porzingis. They have Al Horford coming off the bench. They have Luke Cornett. You have Kata and you have Tillman right there. So those are five bigs the Celtics undoubtedly feel comfortable with playing in the rotation, and they could all slot in for each other and give the Celtics a different look. From a guard's perspective, Jason Tatum is actually the main ball handler in the Boston Celtics rotation. I mean, you could look at White, Holiday, Peyton Pritchard. Those are all guards for the Boston Celtics, and they make up one of the best guard rotations in the league. However, Jason Tatum is arguably the Celtics' main ball handler. So if you really factor in Tatum into that equation, you have Tatum, you have White, you have Holiday who can handle the ball, and Peyton Pritchard as well. So you have those four guards, and Tatum as a guard, but he really does play as a guard out there. You have those guys all in a row, but then you go to your wings, right? If you're the Celtics, if you go to the wings, a little thin. It's a little thin. Now, Jaylen Brown, he could also be in that guard category as well, but he almost plays more as a wing on this team. After Jaylen Brown, who do we have? It's Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser, he really has struggled this season doing what he's best at, which is hitting that 3-point shot. And if Sam Hauser isn't hitting that three, what is he doing out there on the floor? Because his defense is a little lackluster at times. He's been better, of course, since the beginning portion of his career, but he's still somebody that guys just continuously get buckets against. After Hauser, you're looking at guys like Jordan Walsh. I mean, Jordan
Yes, sir.
Walsh, he's a great defender, but his offensive game needs a lot of refinement out there, and he's still very, very young. A second year, second round pick, NBA champion, of course, but second year, second round pick. And now you bring in Torrey Craig, that fills a legitimate need for the Boston Celtics roster and really balances out the bench and the roster for the Celtics in its entirety because you have your big man rotation set, you have your guard rotation set, and now all of your wings and your forwards. Torrey Craig adds to that at the back end, and it really does add a lot to the Boston Celtics roster in terms of him being able to hit that 3-point shot, him being able to defend, can really be a versatile player that gives the Celtics multiple looks. And Franco, I believe you said it where if you want to go more offense, you go with Hauser. But if you want to go more defense, you go Torrey Craig. But I do wonder if Torrey Craig does pick up some of Sam Hauser's minutes because he can be a two-way player for the Celtics. I don't think he's going to handle the ball or anything like that on the offensive end of the floor, but he's certainly somebody that can go out there, hit a corner three, hit a wing three, just be somebody that if Jason Tatum he kicks the ball out to Torrey Craig, he's going to be a near 40% three-point shooter. So great addition by the Boston Celtics getting Torrey Craig essentially for nothing. You could say we traded Jaden Springer indirectly for Torrey Craig, and I think that would be a win at the end of the day for the Boston Celtics.
Anytime you can, and Rob alludes to this a lot, anytime you can add without subtracting, it's a good thing. It is a good thing. And with all due respect to Jaden Springer, obviously a part of that 18th championship team last year. And with all due respect, in his minutes with the Celtics, he 100% played his heart out. He was terrific. So there's no knock on him. But Torrey Craig already fills, as you said, Seamus, already fills a huge void for the Celtics team. And yes, despite the last, 6 to 8 weeks, the Celtics have struggled. There aren't many voids with this team on paper. So adding Torrey Craig to this already stacked Celtics team is terrific. It's a really, really good signing on Brad Stevens. I mean, he really hasn't made such a regression move on this team yet. There hasn't been a move where I'm sitting there and like, Brad, what are you doing? Dating back to obviously that 2021 season when he took over, or that 2022 season when he took over. So, credit to Brad bringing in Torrey Craig, and this was something that we talked about earlier in the afternoon. Obviously, it would have been beautiful to reunite with Daniel Tice, and he'd already be a center that could already work his way back into the rotation over a guy like Nemi or Xavier Tillman. So, obviously the opportunity was there for Daniel Tice to come back for his third stint with the Celtics team, where he already had the winning culture. He already had the camaraderie with a lot of guys on this roster, on this team. So that would have been a solid fit. But I think Torrey Craig, filled a significant gap. And, you just can't, and this is no disrespect to guys like Drew Peterson and Jordan Walsh and Baylor Shireman. They're just too young in their career and inexperienced for you, and also inconsistent for you to rely on when it comes down late in the regular season, even if you have to throw him in there in the playoffs. This is Torrey Craig. He has plenty of playoff experience, plenty of NBA Finals experience, and some terrific teams alongside some terrific players. So this is a guy you also got coming in, not only could be a 3-and-D wing for you and fill that void, but he also has that championship veteran experience that you missed. And, I think it's a terrific signing. I think it's a guy who could still, give you, real, actual, consistent NBA rotational minutes, compared to if you were to bring in, a veteran like Reggie Jackson, if DeAndre Jordan got bought out, or even if, Chris Paul got bought out now with the addition of De'Aaron Fox, which I don't think will happen, but, it's just a name that's out there. So I think it's great that Boston went out and they got an active guy who can provide a somewhat legitimate role in this team. This isn't a guy who will bounce between Maine and Boston. This isn't a guy who is going to rack up the DNPs, in my opinion. This is a guy who can seriously contribute to this roster right now. And there's nights tonight where the Celtics had zero, especially on their perimeter, zero defensive resistance tonight. And this is guy Torrey Craig coming in, who gives you size, can give you that athleticism, and can guard their yard and hold their own. So really good signing for the Boston Celtics and Brad Stevens. And again, this isn't a league shattering move, but at the same time, this is more of a better move than the Celtics could have made with the guys in the buyout market. I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, the Celtics are very, very, very restricted. Obviously, they freed up about $15 million with the Springer trade, but only alluding to about 12.8 at most they could have given out. I don't think they could have convinced Lonnie Walker to come back from overseas. Lonnie Walker, has been playing very well overseas. He seems to really enjoy playing overseas right now, and still a young player with a lot that he can provide in both the NBA and overseas play. But I think the opportunity for Lonnie Walker was there in October, And if we weren't going to attack that opportunity then, I don't know if we were going to attack that opportunity any differently right now. This is a team where they had the chance to get rid of Jaden Springer in the summer. They had the chance to clear that space inside Lonnie Walker, and they didn't. And that's not a knock on Lonnie Walker, but that's just the reality of what happened. So Torrey Craig is a terrific signing, midseason signing for the Celtics team, and I hope he plays. I hope he plays on Saturday, because here's the thing. Torrey Craig, I don't know if he's going to make this immediate impact and he's going to have this camaraderie with the guys. I would love him to come in. And remember Derek White's first game in Boston against the Denver Nuggets, where you could tell it was his first game. He wasn't playing bad, but you could tell he wasn't up with the plays and he wasn't up with the players. And, you knew it was a new situation for him. I can only hope that Torrey Craig comes into Boston and has a similar start like Derek White, where he just vibes wise, he just fits in with this team and he gels well with this team. And obviously New York added a tremendous amount of wing depth in the offseason, adding Mikal Bridges as well as OG Anunoby. Again, before I got to dip out here, fellas, but before, I leave, this is a great signing for both Torrey Craig and the Boston Celtics. And I don't know if there's a guy you could have gone better. Would have there been a different route that you would have gone? Because obviously, Lonnie Walker is always in the question, but Lonnie seems comfortable overseas. I don't know if that was on the table as much as everybody was talking about. What was that, Franco?
15th slot. Who knows? Lonnie Walker still on.
Yeah. There's still another roster spot out there. We
There
got
is,
Lonnie
I
Walker
just
on the
don't see.
minimum, Daniel Tice,
I
Marcus
just don't.
Smart, Josh Richardson.
But as
Bring
far
on
as
the reunions, folks. Bring
but-
on the reunions.
Let me, but in all seriousness, guys, Seamus, I know you're playing point guard right now, but let me play the big point guard right now. I could be the big who I could facilitate. Let me ask you guys, was there a better, you
said big point guard.
I'm
I'm just saying. That was probably the honestly the worst. Yeah. It's probably the worst insult of all time. Gotta get something to throw. Wait, going this way.
Was there would you have maybe signed anybody differently at this position? Who are some names that maybe were on your list, whether it was to over Torrey Craig or not, for the Celtics to pursue in the buyout market? Seamus, I'll ask you first.
Well, the list, of course, has to still kind of develop as it comes out when players actually go and they're bought out by either bad teams or teams they were just traded to. But for me, I think Torrey Craig is a nice signing by the Boston Celtics. Now, outside of him, you're looking at guys like potentially Kyle Anderson. You could look at a guy like Josh Richardson. Potentially, I'm not kidding. Marcus Smart, Josh Richardson, Daniel Tice. You could have looked at all of those players really if you wanted to for the Boston Celtics, because they're likely coming here on minimum deals. Outside of them, yeah, PJ Tucker, that to me doesn't seem realistic, because I think if he really had something left in the tank, he would have been playing with the Clippers, and he wasn't playing with the Los Angeles Clippers whatsoever. He was on the injury report every single night in LA. But I'm going to bring up another Celtic too. You have Dennis Schroeder out there. I really don't see Dennis Schroeder being a fit with the Boston Celtics whatsoever at this point in time, but it just seems like all the old Celtics, they're being bought out or they're being traded somewhere on this given day. And I do believe some of the reunifications make more sense than others. I think the Tice one would make more sense, but that to me would only have made more sense if you traded Tillman at the deadline, and
Right.
that's not what the Celtics did at the end of the day. But it would have been somebody like Kyle Anderson or Josh Richardson. I think that would have made a lot more sense. Just kind of going through it here. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Torrey Craig was that one player you're probably looking at and going, that's our guy, because elsewhere, I just there aren't too many names that really fill as much of the need that Torrey Craig fills. I'm looking at the names right now, and yeah, I mean, really, you're looking at Kyle Anderson, but to me, Kyle Anderson is that player who, for me personally, um, he doesn't shoot the three ball. He does not shoot the three ball. I mean, he has a better percentage this year than he has in the past, but he's not a reliable 3-point shooter whatsoever. He's more of a culture guy. He's more of a defensive presence for any team. I think the Timberwolves might like to have Kyle Anderson back at this point in time. But that would be the other name I'd be looking at. Other than that, maybe Kelly Olynyk if he's bought out by the Pelicans. You could say Kelly Olynyk, kind of that versatile forward slash
No,
big.
he went in that trade. I didn't know he went in that trade. He went
Yeah.
in the New Orleans trade, huh?
Well, the Pelicans need bigs because the only one they have is Missy right now. So
Oh yeah, I mean,
Tyson
and
Olynyk.
they got rid of Tice too. I mean, they really have no bigs. I'm still looking at some of the names here. Yeah, and outside of we'll still have to see what the buyout market does look like because I will say out there it is still developing. I was kind of just looking at more of the trade names today, which there are players who are on contracts with teams at this moment in time that will actually be bought out without being traded. Maybe Reggie Jackson's another one of those names that just traded to the Wizards today, but a lot of these names wouldn't make a ton of sense on the Boston Celtics. Like I said, I mean, to me the fit here is a forward who can defend and shoot the ball. I mean, you want that around the league. Not saying Torrey Craig is the best player around the NBA, but he certainly fills a legitimate need for the Boston Celtics. Whereas all these other players out there, they don't really fill an entire need. Like if you brought in somebody like Dennis Schroeder, it wouldn't fill a need for the Boston Celtics. If you brought in Daniel Tice, doesn't really fill a need for the Boston Celtics. Even Marcus Smart, I talked about him. I wasn't really joking earlier. I think Marcus Smart, maybe that's Canada. Who knows? Heart and
yeah,
soul, just saying.
15
Here for
spot.
9 years. I don't know how he'd feel about coming back to Boston. I'm sure he spent his best years of his career in Boston, but
mean,
he
we
still
can't.
wouldn't
It's too
really fill a
expensive.
role either.
It's too expensive. I don't think the opportunity is even there. He's making well over 12.8 million.
Oh, right. I forgot about the rules.
So smart,
My goodness.
So for
My
the people,
goodness, we talked about this earlier. Got to know the rules on here. Got to know the rules.
Well, it's crazy because my DMs have gotten flooded all day with people.
Dennis Schroeder would be off the table too, by the way.
People try. Yeah, he's making 84 million. Oh no, he's not. Sorry. He's DMs have been flooded all day. Justin, can we get this player, this player, this player? You don't understand with the Celtics and the second tax and the apron and all that. Celtics literally could not go over the $12.8 million. That was like the minimum. So guys like Ben Simmons, if he were to get bought out, Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, if he were to get bought out, there's
Kelly Olynyk too. I think he would have been over that as well.
Kelly Olynyk. There's a lot of players who would fit pretty well with the Celtics team, but unfortunately, they're making too much money right now for the Celtics to require the buyout market. So automatically, guys like Middleton and Marcus Smart, those guys are off the table, and Ben Simmons for the Celtics. There was some talk about Ben Simmons coming to Boston via trade. Essentially, that just wouldn't make any sense. You'd have to trade a guy like Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown. I mean, let's face it. If you didn't trade Jaylen Brown to the Nets for Kevin Durant, you're sure as hell not going to trade Jaylen Brown to the Nets for Ben Simmons. But obviously, we wouldn't do that. But talking about the salary cap and the second tax apron, you would have to dish out a similar salary to a guy in the starting lineup for the Celtics. And there's not a single guy, even in the top 6, I'd give for Ben Simmons. There's certain guys out there where it makes sense if the Celtics had the money to do so and the flexibility. They just don't, and that's how it works out. But for the Boston Celtics to go out and get a guy like Torrey Craig for the minimum, and that's huge for the Celtics team. I get to dip out, fellas. I hate to cut it short, but there's a ton of trades left to a ton of trades left for you guys to go over, so I'll let you guys get to that. But abysmal performance tonight for the Celtics. Embarrassing that can't happen on their home court. But I'm very relieved to see the Celtics very active in the buyout market and go after filling a void, a 3-and-D wing who can play consistent minutes for this team. Hopefully we see him on Saturday night because he is probable to play. So for now, fellas, Seamus, control Franco while I'm gone, please. I know he's tough, but continue the show. Part two of the trade deadline special.
Sure.
Right.
See you, fellas.
Get the balloons.
See you, Franco.
Balloons.
See you, buddy.
Part 2.